have things in, yeah, you can support various screen types. So I don't limit to the screen sizes. So basically I'm talking about like CSS media queries here. I'm not going to talk too much detail about it, but basically the idea is you can just, support many different device types, like various screen sizes and resolutions, and screen pixel densities and orientations as well. So by using media queries, that you can control the presentation of the content and without modifying content itself. So the idea of the adaptive design has been around for quite a long time actually, but it's just simply the term you might have heard of, the responsive web design. It's been a huge buzz in the last few days, but in not days, maybe years or so. And especially when talking about like apps like publishing apps, I think media queries works pretty well to support the mobile phones, computers, and desktops and tablets. And another technologies you can use is CSS3 Flexbox and Grid. It might not be quite ready yet, but soon to be able in the future. And of course, when you are targeting touch devices, use the touch events and such. And using offline storage to, it's self-explanatory. Basically, it stores some contents to the browser using the local storage or maybe the DB in the browser. So basically, your users don't have to keep downloading the same thing over and over time again. Like, let's say if you have a company logo, which is not likely to change, and then you probably want to save it somewhere so your users don't have to download all the time. And 2D gaming is another good example. A good use case. We might be having a game with canvas with touch events, and maybe using audio. Or if you choose to have some DOM scripting, DOM type of gaming instead of canvas, you might want to use CSS3 animation transforms. For multiplayer games, WebSocket's there too. So last year, so again, I mentioned a little bit, but I am a part of W3C as well. So last year, W3C announced the industry-wide initiative called the Coremob Web Platform Community Group, and we call it Coremob CG for short, to help improve the mobile web. So our goal is, the goal of the Coremob is to accelerate the adoption of the mobile web as a compelling platform, and for the development of modern, mobile web applications. So in order to achieve this mission, so our group, community group, brings developers, of course, and the equipment manufacturers, and browser vendors, and operators, and other relevant members from the industry all together. So that those members, the company includes the Nokia, and other hardware manufacturers like Samsung, and operators like AT&T, Verizon, Vodafone, Orange, Telefonica, and KDDI, SoftBank, they are the Japanese companies, and the chip companies like Qualcomm, Intel, and Texas Instruments, and the browser vendors like Mozilla, Opera, and Microsoft, and also vendor neutral companies like Facebook, and more. We have more members here. And then we try to get together to agree on core features of the core features that developer can depend on, and also compiling related conformance history, and also the providing the use cases and scenarios and other input to drive the successful mobile development. So here I try to talk about use cases and such. And the second one is the start, because now we decided to have the testing group as independent, the separated group, so we know how to take care of it for mobile community group. So we have this Coremob platform, the specification here. We actually host in GitHub. So it's the URL is right here, so I encourage you to read this doc. Not those, but anyway. Yeah. All right. So here I'm going to talk more about the fun stuff, the open source app. So as a side project at the Coremob, my colleague from Nokia, John Nealand, and W3C rep from Facebook, and Toby Lancho, And I have initiated to develop this open source camera application that are built using web technologies only. So this is like entirely written in HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS3. It's all working plain sight. And here's a video. It would be nice to show the actual demo in Elmo, but I have a video here instead. So this is running in the browser. So pressing the camera button to initiate this native camera here. I'm taking a photo from my office. That's my next door neighbor. So now photos taken and applying the filter. Yeah, you might have seen some similar ads before, but I'm not trying to sell this app for $1 million to anybody. It's open source. And just store the logo in the browser. And here's a carousel with the touch events, so you can scroll. And send in a photo to the server. So I have this app posted here, but this is a temp URL because it's actually my Dropbox repo. I'm using the Dropbox for the GitHub repo actually. It's kind of strange, but it's really working for me because it's really, I can test on mobile by accessing this Dropbox URL anytime during development, so it's quite handy. So it's not like a actual deployment server or anything, it's just temp, so things might change. And it might be broken too if you see me during coding and such. So here's a project goal. So yeah, we created this app to showcase the capability of mobile web platform, And then of course, try to educate web developers out there. So try to basically show how to use them, best use those technologies building modern web applications. And also try to help improve browsers. Of course, we are not creating browsers, we're not browser vendors, but basically by providing the vendors with this app and showing some key features and performance and such, and show them what features are not working or not working correctly, have implemented wrong, and of course we've been finding bugs each time we found. Well, maybe not yet, but anyways, we're going to. So now I'm going to show more technical stuff. The actual example of HTML5 APIs I've used for this app. So it's all about coding here. So first thing I'm showing is the HTML media capture. That's actually probably you find it's most interesting things if you don't know yet. So it's really simple, actually, it's more simple for you to implement. So basically, taking a picture with your phone. It's done by delegating the native camera by using this thing called HTML media capture. And the native camera returns a picture as a file object. It's from File API. I'm going to talk a little bit later. And the implementation, again, it's implementing this so easy. It's just input tag, here. And input a type file. You've seen this before. This is basically a file upload. It's nothing more than a file upload. But we have extras here. So here's accept attribute. So basically, we're taking pictures, accepting the image. So you need to give image /star here. And another thing is a capture attribute. So again, I'm taking the camera as input. So using the camera, capture camera. Actually, this specification is now in the final code. So the new specification here is captures using just as a Boolean attribute. So you don't need any values as camera because of what else, So, but currently, none of the browser have used this newer specification because it's too new. So for those supported browsers, I still needed to use this whole thing, the capture the camera. And here's the browser compatibility. So when I'm talking about browser compatibility, we're talking about mobile I'm not talking about desktop, because this media capture is really mobile specific. So when you try this on Chrome on your desktop, you're like, oh, doesn't, the camera doesn't work. Yeah, it's not working that way. This is not the Git user media. WebRTC, you might have heard of. This is a different things. And again, it's easier than the media. The WebRTC or Git user media for you to use. So again, this is supported by Google's browsers quite well. So Chrome 18 is the first Chrome available for the Android phone. Currently, the latest version 25. But many of your phones might still have 18 because even I just got a Nexus 4, but it was shipped with 18. So unless you downloaded a new version, you might have 18 if you have an Android phone. And also, it's also supported by Android browser, surprisingly. And the BlackBerry 10 supports that quite nicely too. And the other, the Safari and the Firefox, they do support, but the reason I put star is because they haven't implemented incorrectly, so we already have 5 bugs. So they don't quite understand this capture. So when you use this app on those browsers, camera might not get delegated. Your camera doesn't run immediately. They might ask you if you want to upload, the choose photo from gallery, or camera. So it doesn't go in camera right away. It's wrong actually. And IE, that's a tricky one because IE 10, the Microsoft already have implemented this already, but they just disabled it for IE 10 for mobile on the Windows phone. It's kind of sad. So none of that, input file, type file, media capture or not, any file input, it's all disabled for mobile, the Windows phone. And of course, I did tell Microsoft guys about this. I hope they fix it for IE 11. And File API. So those images you just get, the image can be also be displayed as a preview on the client side without uploading. So when the user snaps the picture, the API returns a file object list, and you can access the file object on change event. I use event listener here, but on change. And the read and FileReader. The read and FileReader object as an instance, and then call it read as a data URL to display the image in a data URL. It's a long data URL, base64 string here. So I'm basically just showing here. So either target result is actually base and data URL. So now you get the photos, and now I try to preview of your photo, and I'll try to apply filter to the photo. So this is actually I use Canvas to do this, like Instagram effect. And you might ask, why don't you use a CSS3? CSS3 filters cool. It's easier, but of course, there's a few reasons. Browsers don't support it yet. But the thing is, if you just use the CSS, it's only changing the presentation. It doesn't change the actual file, so you can't really save the filters, photos, and such. So it's sort of useless for my purpose. So I'm using Canvas here. So yeah, this is an example of how. How you paint a pixel data. So basically, you define a canvas, the first line here, get context, and importing that, the image object here by using the draw image method. And then, the side that contains the image data object is a copy of the whole pixel from the context. Then, I do some magic and apply some filter here, and finally using the image data method to paint the pixels back to the original content. So the Canvas has a pretty good support on mobile browsers, so you can pretty much use it like in any. So here's a little explanation of how I manipulate the Canvas pixel here. So data property of the image data. Image data, it stores the color info of each pixel in the canvas. And in this diagram, I use a 3 pixel by 3 pixel, and total just 9 pixel, the tiny little image. It's not really the realistic, but anyway, I'm just showing this 9 by 9 for you. So now, and each pixel in the data array, here, it consists of 4 bytes values, which is red, green, blue, and alpha. And each of the RGBA, and that can contain the values between 0 to 255. So again, so each pixel array, the data array. So it says the 3 by 3, it's a 9 pixel, but it's actually here the data array has a length of 36, right? So the next is the actual code. So now, yeah, I'm assigning here. This is actually the example of the grayscale. It's the easiest one, the grayscale. So assigning these is just measure data. And here's a loop. So it's just iterating the whole thing. Like in this case, like 36, like the length is 36, right? So the data length is 36, going 36 times. But I'm giving it here so +4, so basically skipping a 4 because it's the RGB and A. And you can just get RGB values like, just +1 and +2. And in this case, I'm not using alpha. Alpha is the alpha transparency. I'm not changing any of those, just the colors. So I'm not getting A. And here, there's some equation here. I didn't come up with by myself. I'm just using some algorithm called the CIE 9031 luminance. So basically, what it does, it just converts into the grayscale. So again, you notice it's a for loop of like length of each pixel, the array. It's really tedious, and you have to do this calculation each pixel, right? So let's say, in the reality, you don't have 9 pixel big picture. You might have, let's say, 100 by 100, which is still small, right? But you have to go through like, 10,000 iterations. And in my app, I use a 612 by 612, just like, Instagram. And, that has a total of around 375,000 pixels. That means, have to go through this many times. So, of course, reality is, yes, it's slow. It's pretty slow. So, yeah, here's sort of wish list, or maybe already have exist, to have faster canvas. So it's really nice that browser support hardware acceleration for canvas, and just like it's already happening for CSS3 animations. And as long as I know, IE10 mobile does that, and Chrome does too. And I've heard Safari for iOS does too, but I'm not sure because it seems to be kind of slow compared to other browsers. So, but anyway, so in case hardware acceleration is enabled, of course I wish it's a hardware side, but the faster GPU would be nice. Of course, that makes it fast. Another thing is more like a software side in the browser. 32-bit pixel manipulation. I'm talking about like a typed array. So my example I just showed to you was I was just using the traditional 8-bit operation. So the object returned by the data property, canvas, the image data was actually canvas pixel array, and I'm also browsers now. But this is actually going to, or already have been deprecated in favor of this, the UN8 content array, which is an unsigned typed array. So I forgot which browser. Oh, I think I wrote down somewhere. Yeah, the Firefox and Opera Mobile, they already have switched to the UN, this typed array. And I'm not sure, the Chrome 18, Android 4, and IE10 still using this old stuff, but I'm not sure about new Chrome, like Chrome 25, I'm not sure. But it might already have switched, or maybe going to if it's not. So it would be nice. So, the once you get typed array, the developer can just probably, I haven't tried, but probably use a bitwise left shift, 32-bit pixel manipulations, which should be significantly faster. And another thing that's good to have is the background operations using workers. Or maybe it's a good idea instead of just iterating whole going through each pixel. Maybe it's a good idea to have this chunked up in each pixel and have can process simultaneously. Nice. I don't know. It'll be really fast. And here's another thing that's cool stuff. So a blog. So I'm gonna use okay, hold on here. So canvas to blog. It's a new stuff actually. So you can convert the photo, the filtered photo in this case in the canvas to blog directly here by using this canvas to blog, and it's all the async operations. And you can choose the file types. In this case, it's JPEG. It's really handy, and I really like it. It's fast and quick operation, but it's only supported by a Firefox 18 so far. So for unsupported browsers like Chrome and other browsers, I still have to convert the canvas into that URL string first. Then invoking the blob constructor, and to finally convert it to blob. So I have to have extra lengthy the util function for this, and that's kind of annoying. So I really hope that the browser supports soon. The blob URL. This is actually already had a good support by most mobile browsers here. So it's displaying blob. So it has the special object URL, and has some funky stuff here with an image source. So it's actually dumping the blob there, directly. So yeah, this object URL represents the specified blob object, and creating a new object URL is lifetime tied to the document in Windows on which was created. And if you don't need it, you can release the URL with a revoke object URL method. And you still need the WebKit URL, WebKit vendor prefix for those WebKit browsers, Chrome, Android, Safari, and BlackBerry. And for Firefox and IE10, you don't have to just get the URL equal to window.url. It's simple, super simple. And IndexedDB. So this is a now new standard of database for in the HTML5. We might have something like SQLite before, but that's sort of deprecated. It's no longer considered to be a standard web standard. So we use IndexedDB. So yeah, so I use IndexedDB to store those photos locally. When I say local, it means to the web browsers, not really to elsewhere in your hard drive, such as within the browser. And this is how you open IndexedDB, and it's async. Actually, the specifications say you can do this in async or sync in either way, but I believe that current browsers, supported browsers, only use async. And currently, a basic async IDB. I say IDB support with small I, but iOS Safari is not supported though. And so the Chrome 18 and 25, BlackBerry 10, Firefox and IE10 all supported IndexedDB. And all those one with stars, you still need a vendor prefix, WebKit. So it looks like the current Chrome 25 have dropped the prefix already. So here's some program using IndexedDB. Actually, to be honest, when I was working on this app, the hardest part for developing and testing was IndexedDB. The other things was pretty, I don't say straightforward, but I enjoy coding, but IndexedDB was tough because initially I tried to support all the browsers I mentioned here. But the thing is, first of all, Safari and Opera Mobile, they don't support it at all. I think they might support SQLite instead, but not IndexedDB. And for those supported browsers, the specification have changed sometimes. So the older, if you want to support old, I say old, but they're not even old actually. Those browsers, you probably have to support deprecated ways as well. Like for example, in a Firefox, so basics support starts in since version 4, Firefox 4, but then version deprecated at version 10, so now we don't use this anymore. Instead of using set version method, we use upgrade. It's upgrade needed events here. So now the Firefox have made a switch after version 10. And another thing is like IDB transaction mode here has been switched to string from constant since 13. So now the standard way is using the string here. But some browsers still using constant, and Chrome 18, I think was one of those too. So I think when I was writing apps, I eventually dropped it from 18 support because it was just too much pain to deal with this. And also the Chrome in any versions, I mean, even the latest, like 25, doesn't support a block. So what I did was actually storing, the data URL string, which is huge, right? So the storing the like large string into the IndexedDB, it's doable, but I'm not honestly sure about like performance constraint and such. I didn't think it was really a good idea, and I didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway because it works. So hopefully, the Chrome will support the blob soon. Because come on, it's blob. I mean, no big deal, right? Let's just support it. And XHR too. That's cool stuff I like. So now let's send in a photo to the server. And XML HTTP request, it's been there for long. It's whole age of things like got popular like back in 2005 and stuff. So I bet everybody here is already familiar with the XHR here. But here's the XHR too. It adds some new stuff, the cool stuff. So it adds a support for like form data interface. So form data object lets you compile like a set of key value, the pairs to send using XHR, the request and easily. And here I said something that form data append. So it kind of treats like a form, but I don't actually need a real HTML forms like input and such here because by using this append method, you can append the field on the fly. So it treats us sort of like form, but you can just append it whatever the data here. And the XHR2 is supported by various browsers. It's pretty good support, I would say. So you can use it now already on a mobile. And with XHR2, the data you can send is not limited to downstream or XML. Then you can just send using the send method. The send method. Then that can accept the binary data as well. And another cool thing here you can see in the code example is events. So here I'm registering a bunch of different events here, right? And you see here's a progress event. It has I'm using this event handler event, here the event type. So here's an example of using this on progress event. So I'm showing this uploading in 87% here. So basically, you can track how much of file is being sent here easily, really easily. And I'm just showing displaying here in a string, but probably it's cool that if you use the HTML5 progress element for the display. Maybe I should have used this, but in my app I thought it was better just showing the number. And of course, the course. It's a cross-origin resource sharing. So typically, in a web app, using XML HTTP request, can only be taken HTTP request to the domain it was loaded from, and not to the other domains, right? But now you can use course. And of course, allows web application on one domain to the other, first domain. So you can do the cross-domain AJAX request to the different domains. And to make a simple course request, the server only needs to add a header to its response. So this is actually example on Apache. You just have to add this in htaccess, and you say star means pretty much you're accepting from anywhere. Or maybe you can specify some domains. And this is supposed to be pretty secure. And it's already have supported in most of mobile browsers, so you can use it now. And some UI. So I have added this carousel UI to this app. Basically, you just swipe each image, the previewing image, to the next by that swiping by swiping. So for this, yes, again, it's a touch screen. I mean, touch devices, so I'm using touch events here. And this is Apple's originally, originally submitted by Apple, so this is called the DOM touch events version 1. So it's been, considered to be de facto standard for touch event for years, like maybe since, iPhone. But there's some issues, of course, again, this is only for touch. So if you want to support this app on, desktop browsers, this fails if you only use a touch event, right? So you have to include mouse events as well. And then there's other issue about standardizing this, touch events because some legal issue with Apple and the rest of the companies wanted to make it standard. So there's some dramas last year. So what happened was last year, maybe like September, October, I can't remember. Microsoft have submitted some alternative way to do the touch event, for the touch event standards. And again, I was saying like when you have a touch event, you probably have to add a mouse event to make it work in desktop as well. So I think Microsoft was thinking in a way like maybe it's nice to support everything, like any user input, right? Like mouse or maybe mouse pad. Or touch screen, or could be pen, or could be something else in the future. I don't know, something connect to something, whatever. So yeah, so this is called point events. And then there's some events. So I'm just using event list not here, but you can send a pointer down, pointer move, pointer up, and there's a thing pointer cancel. Oh, can't remember actually. But they're pretty close to a mouse events, really. So if you already know like mouse events, it's really easy to use. It's almost the same. I mean, I would say it's easier than implementing the touch events actually. But currently, like again, it's new. It's super new. So it's only working in IE10. I would say in a production browser that your user might have. So you need a MS vendor prefix here, right? So instead of the pointer down, pointer move, you need MS pointer down and such. Yeah, but actually, what? I said the only in IE10, but now there is an experimental, the Chromium build that you can download. It's already have the point events implemented, and it doesn't use the vendor prefix. I find some bug. I'm not sure if it's a bug or feature actually, but so it might not work exactly the same way, but it's cool. So I'm not sure how soon it's going to be integrated into the Chrome, but I would say maybe sooner or later the other browser is going to support point events. Oh, not sure about Safari. And then more stuff, the more APIs I've used in this app. So I'm not going to talk more detail about. I can, but it's going to take like another hour. So I have a history API using like pop state events. So it's like a single page application. So it doesn't actually have a multiple HTML pages, but you can basically sort of simulate, going back and forward by using those events. And another thing is a screen orientation API by using orientation change events and CSS3 transforms and animations. Web fonts, yeah, you didn't probably see in the video, but I did use a web font for icons, not actual fonts. I mean the text. I use, the web icons. It's pretty cool because it's like a vector based, so it works nicely on any screen. High pixel density screens like Retina and such. It scales nicely, and most of browsers the modern browsers and mobile phones do support. And I use a hidden attribute. That's another cool attribute. So I used to basically hide and show the toggling UI instead of using a display none. Actually, I still use display none for fallbacks because some browsers don't support it yet. And other things, the data, custom attributes for the private data. Again, this is cool feature that I would like to talk more about, but I think time's running out, so I didn't include it. And finally, PhoneGap. So PhoneGap, it's not like browser technology or HTML5, I would say, but it's actually really, I believe it's important, and I don't think important, but it's pretty cool things to fill in the gap for missing HTML5 features. So yeah, of course, we're using the shiny new HTML5 features, especially like device APIs, like using hardware APIs. In this case, like camera, right? There's no polyfills or sims that you can really use because again, it's manipulating hardware. But PhoneGap takes care of this, and if you're not familiar with PhoneGap, it's actually not a web app. It creates a native app. I would say hybrid app. So it's going to be a hybrid app, but again, it's really filling up the gap. So in this case, like again, I was talking about earlier that IE10 has a feature of a media capture, but it's disabled. So I use a PhoneGap to create a native app for that, and it works nicely. So everything I show here, again, it's an open source app. So it's in my GitHub, not my GitHub, I mean the Coremob GitHub. And this is not quite done. It's an ongoing project, and I'm thinking about writing more documentations and tutorials. Maybe I'm gonna just use Docker or something to, make it into the actual tutorial. But anyways, you can take a look at it or do whatever that's there. So thank you very much, and this is my information. So yeah, my URL and my GitHub and whatever. So thank you very much.